That's right.
Looking for a sponsorship.
Yeah. Guy Dr. Thumber beat the shit out of our friend.
I had to go change.
Yeah.
When Pop hits back.
Anyway, so now we're off schedule, but kind of back on schedule. What a week of MMA news. What a weekend of fights. Guys, his thoughts Saturday night. We'll talk main event, but I know there's a couple other points. So thoughts on the fights Saturday night.
Open us up, Chaz.
All right. Well, first of all, welcome back to the Casual Couch MMA podcast. Going live Tuesdays at 5:30 Eastern time, as long as I don't spill pop on myself.
You didn't spill it, it whooped your ass.
I seen it. Yeah, it knocked me out for sure. But
Bishop said that Pop's got the dog in him.
that Dr. Thunder's got that dog in him. But all right, so the main event, Holloway and Allen. I thought it was a good fight. I thought Allen, his biggest problem was that he wasn't throwing a lot of combinations, and I don't think he worked the body as well as he should have. But that being said, Arnold Allen he's the real deal. He's a very good fighter. He belongs in the top 5 of that division. I think he proved that against Holloway. And to be honest, the shots he was landing, if that were anybody else besides Max, he probably wins by knockout on that Saturday night.
Right.
I think that if he threw more combinations and was more aggressive, that the fight could have been different. But to Max's credit, one of the things that makes him so great is he throws 3-4 strikes at a time. He changes levels, like he goes to the body, works the legs. He does everything so well. And it's not just like one punch at a time. That's why he's so hard to counter. So Max, I mean, where do you go from here? Because he's lost to Volk 3 times. I mean, that's the biggest question moving forward. But what do you guys think?
I'm going to add to that, Chase. I think, first off, I agree with you. Arnold Allen is for real. Arnold Allen showed me a lot in that fight. He's not underrated. The only thing I will say about that fight, which I wish had Arnold Allen fought the way he did in the 5th round, the entire fight, we might have a different fight on our hands, a different result.
I agree.
Kind of like Max Holloway, you can't just decide that you were going to out technician Max Holloway. Max Holloway is one of the best strikers in the sport. If you go in there and you just say, hey, we're just going to strike for 5 rounds, not too many people on the planet can beat Holloway. Now you have to incorporate your grappling, incorporate wrestling, at least have the threat of the attempt on it. If you can do that with Holloway and also back him up, you can have success. That's how Alexander Volkanovski had success against Holloway. That's even Yair Rodriguez had a lot of success against Max Holloway.
Yeah, arguably won that fight.
So, and that's the only, when I look at that fight with Arnold Allen's side, is I think he could have done more, but make no mistake, he did fight a good fight, landed great shots on Max Holloway, hit some shots like you said. Anybody else in that division, he'd have put out. Yeah. But go to Holloway. That's a great question. What do we do with Max Holloway? He is in the worst position in that weight class. I see he called out the Korean Zombie. Yeah, you can do that fight. Makes a little bit of money.
That's a fan fight.
It's a fan fight, exactly. Matt's right, fan fight. But what do you do now with Holloway? And also, I want to throw on Max Holloway looked good too. He's still Max Holloway. He's still the guy. He's still a bad man. His combination still has that chin. I don't know what you do from here. Volkanovski, apparently he's not going anywhere. He's staying at 145, even though he went up to 155 once. I personally like to see Max Holloway go up, but we'll see. But all in all, great performance by Max Holloway. Good performance by Arnold Allen. I think he has a lot of room to improve, and looking forward to what happens next.
What do you think, Bish?
Well, I'm looking at the statistics here since I'm the statistics guy.
You're the statistician.
Max Holloway was extremely busy in that fight, as he always is. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Calvin Kattar fight, he had like 200 some punches thrown.
That was wild.
Yeah. He's got 149 out of 264 total strikes, 147 for 262 significant, compared to Arnold Allen with 80 and 76. I feel the biggest thing, like if you go into a fight with Max Holloway, And kind of like Pat said, you can't just technician the guy. You have to stay on pace with him. I mean, you can't really wear him out, but you gotta keep up the pace with the guy. You can't try and go in there and knock him out because the guy's got a granite chin. I mean, Max Holloway like you said, he's still Max Holloway. He's a legend of the sport already. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely. He's going to go down as one of the greatest ever.
He's only 31.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of wars.
He's going to go down as one of the greatest fighters, regardless of weight class, no matter what. Yeah. And Arnold Allen, this fight just showed you Arnold Allen is for real. So if anybody was doubting him, saying he's not for real, he's that guy.
And he's only going to get better.
Yeah, he's only going to get better. Just moving forward, he's just going to continue to work on his game and get better.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this was a big
learning experience.
Yeah, it was a huge learning experience for him in this fight. But Max Holloway, he is in a weird spot right now, like you said. And the Korean Zombie fight, that's more of a fight for the fans. But also, he just kind of said he wanted to fight Korean Zombie because he was one of the guys who never got to fight when he was younger, coming up and all that. But he is in a weird spot because he is somewhat of a gatekeeper in this division. I mean, you got to get past Max Holloway to get to Volkanovski.
Absolutely.
And getting a Volkanovski is not an easy thing to do.
No.
And just taking Volkanovski out is not an easy thing to do. Because, I mean, if you look at all of Volkanovski's fight, that dude's, fresh at the end of his fights. Even against T-City, he was still fresh.
Yeah, and you saw that live.
And then after he fought, what's his name? I can't think of his name. Lightweight champion.
Islam.
Which, hang on. I wanted to say Khabib for a second, but go ahead.
Volk won that fight. That's all I'm saying. Volk won that fight. Go ahead, Brian.
You could have said Khabib, and we all would have known what you're talking about because they're the same person.
Yeah, I wanted to say Khabib, but it's basically the same guy. If you look at him at the end of that fight, he's still fresh. I mean, compared to Islam, where he needed 6 guys to hold him up. But, Max Holloway, I'd like to see him be champion again. I'd hope that he could maybe fight for the belt after this. I don't know. I don't know what the UFC plans. I know Alexander Volkanovski's fighting soon.
Yeah, he's got year.
He's fighting July 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe after the Yair fight, we see Max Holloway go in there for a third, fourth time?
Yeah,
fourth.
Yeah.
Fourth, yeah.
Well,
quadrilogy.
You gotta get through Yair.
Got a little quadrilogy.
Yeah. What do you think? What are you thinking, Matt?
I liked Max. I thought Saturday night was a fun fight for Max. I thought he's him. I mean, he went out there and he did what he had to do, and he always does what he has to do. I agree with you guys. Where does he go from here? We're talking fan fights. Korean Zombie fight, it's a fan fight, but it's not a fight I want to see. I want to see him get in there against guys that are trying to come up still. I'm talking the Josh Emmets, who just lost, but the Josh Emmets and the younger guys that are trying to come up, because I don't want to see him be a gatekeeper, but that's what he's playing at now. And I think he'll be the backup fighter for Yair Volk, but I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think he gets past Volk. With that, we talked about outpacing Max Holloway and not getting into these striking wars. How much of not sparring does that play into Max Holloway's favor? Because he doesn't spar. He doesn't hard spar, sorry.
Well, he's as fresh as you could possibly be. And that's another, I mean, he said, excuse me, he's like, I know how to fight because I've been doing it. So why go and beat my body up leading up to a fight? He trains. He doesn't go hard, do hard sparring, and he goes in, no injuries. I mean, he goes in as fresh as possible. I think that's one of the reasons why maybe his cardio is so good and his chin's not worn down. So I mean, for some people, I mean, outside of Max, I can't think of anyone else who actually does that, at least off the top of my head. But I mean, it's working for him. I mean, he looks good. He always keeps the pace. He throws crisp combinations. It doesn't seem like the sparring has any negative effects on his performances in the octagon.
Yeah.
I agree. I want to add something real quick, a question to all you guys about Holloway. He does have that granite chin. You look at the last 5 fights, Max Holloway's been in some wars. Even the Calvin Kattar fight, he took damage. Took damage against Calvin Kattar. Took damage against Volkanovski 3 times. Took damage against Yair. Yair easily could have won that fight.
Yeah.
How long does that chin hold up? Because eventually it goes. All it takes is one great shot, and it just cracks that chin.
Mm-hmm.
That
plays into like Chase said earlier. He's 31. I'm not lying when I say he doesn't look as good as he used to cutting to 145.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think your chin. Chase brought that to my attention. Being an MMA fan for as many years, I didn't even realize like weight cuts meant anything to how hard you could take a punch. So
it means a lot.
The fluid in your brain.
Exactly. It affects your brain and your nervous system, everything. So a drastic weight cut affects your entire body.
I think
everything.
I think when the weight cut starts to mess with him big, that's when we'll see the legendary Max Holloway chin start to wear away a little bit.
I agree.
Okay.
How much do you think like your chin has to do with your confidence? Because I mean, I've seen guys with a good chin get knocked out
Everything.
and come back. Yeah, because it's like, you know, you like say you've been fighting for, I don't know, 5 to 6 years, and you've taken some heavy shots that nobody else could take, and then all of a sudden that one guy comes in, knocks you out cold, and then all your other fights you take the same shots you've been taking for the past 5 to 6 years, and you get put out cold. I mean, you see it coming, and then that's it.
Chocolate L.
Oh yeah, Chocolate L.
Yeah.
Chocolate L.
Luke Rockhold used to have a pretty good chin.
Luke's a really good one because Luke was
yeah.
he was running Strike Force.
Once he lost to Bisping, his whole career went downhill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to go off tangent. We talked a lot about not going off tangent. I feel like every time it's like a curse. It's like the Madden curse. Every time a fighter announces retirement too young, their career just.
Yep.
It's a weird thing.
I agree.
Besides that, I don't want to get caught up too much. I'm not sure if you guys want to talk too much about Saturday night.
There's really only one other fight that truly matters right now, and that was Brandon Royval's win.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
that one.
Yeah, because he just moved. He's number 4 in the flyweight rankings right now, and that division is so. I mean, it's been Figgy and Moreno for the last 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So Moreno is fighting Pantoja on July 8th. He's going to be the co-main.
Yep.
For Volk-Yair, and then Figgy is also fighting Cape on. I think that's how you Cape. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's fighting him on that July 8th card as well. So
at 125, which is a big deal.
Huge deal.
At 125, and looking at the rankings, Kai Kara-France, he has a fight coming up. I think he fights June 3rd, and there was one more, but I mean, there's the top 5 flyweights all have fights booked, and now, it's the top 5. It's so close, and I'm not really sure, but Royval's stock went up, and he's 1 win away from title shot.
Yeah, I think he potentially gets the winner. You could honestly make the case that he gets the winner of the Moreno fight. You know, unless it's a war, which like pretty much very well. How do you pronounce his last name again, Chase? I'm sorry.
For Royval?
No, the guy Brandon Moreno's fighting.
Penteo.
Oh,
Penteo. I didn't know he beat Moreno twice.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Brandon Moreno twice. That's a big fight. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at he could potentially get the winner of that fight. So
real quick, these are the 125 fights that are coming up. So we have Figueiredo versus Manel Cape. Then we got the Pantoja's fighting Moreno, and then Kai Kara-France is fighting Amir Albazi. I think that's he's fighting him June 3rd. So for Royval, luckily, the Kai Kara-France fight is in June. Maybe he gets the winner of that fight, and then that's your next title challenger. I mean, because it's not too far out, but I mean, beating Matt Schnell's number 8. He just beat Nicolau. That's who he knocked out. You got maybe Alex Perez at number 6.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting title picture right now at 125.
Yeah, it is.
Which
it is.
I think they need. This is something off the podcast, off the script we were talking about. They need those kind of fights because I'm not sure about you guys. I'm pretty sure like 125, if they start losing those fun, exciting fights, I don't see that division being around for too much longer.
I'm a hot take right now. I think 125 will be done by 2025. I think it'll be done. The division's done.
I can see it.
I agree.
My opinion, hot take.
Yeah, what do you think, Bish?
I think the same thing because I mean you don't really see any.
You're doing Moreno Figueiredo 10 times.
Right, you just had it 4 times in a row.
You're gonna get those two guys fighting each other, which is the most exciting fight in that division right now. I mean, granted, there's other really good fighters in that division, but it's just like most of the time you have like a big hyped pay-per-view card. It's either like lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, or heavyweight. There's really nothing exciting for that division.
They couldn't even main event Demetrius Johnson.
No.
Demetrius Johnson is in my top 5 greatest fighters of all time.
And he was on fight nights because they couldn't main event him.
Especially what that flying armbar he did.
That was
that was sick.
But so with the 125, say if it is gone, it's like, do these guys just get absorbed by the 135ers, or do some of them completely leave the UFC to go to other companies? It's going to be like, it's an interesting concept because how stacked is 135 going to be if 125 gets absorbed by
extremely stacked?
I would love that. There's a lot of big fights.
Because dude, the 135 is arguably the best division in
right
UFC.
there.
It's like right up there. They're lightweight. I mean, 135, 145, and 55 are
135 has some killers.
Like
135 has some killers.
It's if 125 is taken out, and those guys are either forced to, you either go up to 135 or you're gone. That's gonna make for like that 135-pound division is gonna be so exciting to watch.
Absolutely, excitement.
It already is.
It's a fun one, and they have 135's got a huge fight coming up.
Yeah,
135.
May
Sterling
6th.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's a huge that division, and if we're talking 125ers going up, I mean, Figgy was already talking about it. I think he had made a comment. I didn't read the article, but he had made a comment about why he didn't go up. I mean, a lot of these guys, their power will carry over. I mean, I think personally, Kai Kara France could knock out 135ers. But
I agree.
With the 125
I agree with you.
division, we can't keep recycling these fights. Figgy and Moreno 4. Now Panteo, Moreno 3. Kai Kara France has fought Moreno twice. It's like we're getting the same stuff, and it's ending the same result. It'd be different if these guys were off getting better, but they're just meeting up again at the same level they were. It makes for a boring division.
I mean, were there any other fights in between Moreno and Figueiredo that whole time, or was it just them? Kara
France fought Moreno.
That's
right. And
right.
Moreno beat him.
Yeah. Wasn't that for an interim belt?
Yeah.
And if we're talking,
it's just recycling the same couple fights.
But I mean, I will give it to those guys in 125 though. I mean, you got some really good guys in that division, and I mean, there's been people who have had like really big doubts about Brandon Moreno. He's a fucking good fighter.
Oh, he's great.
Hang on, wait. Dog or no dog?
He's got that dog in him.
He's got that dog.
100%.
Well,
like he looks like such a nice guy, and like
he built Lego.
I forget what fight it was after he fought Figueiredo, but there was a picture of him at the Lego store. He looked like a little kid getting all those fucking Legos. I mean, he looks like a really nice guy. I'm not saying he's not a nice guy. He's a nice guy. But he just doesn't look like the type of dude that will go into a fucking cage fight and beat the shit out of someone.
Yeah.
One thing I learned, it's kind of odd. I just feel like the heavier guys are bigger and stronger and less skilled, and the lighter guys have always been far more skilled than the heavier guys. Look at 125 to 170. Those guys are almost, or even I'll go 125 to 185. you guys are usually always more skilled. I mean, the lower you go, the more skilled they are. It's just, I don't know why. It's always been that way.
It's even in boxing, it's the same thing.
Right. Everything's better.
You got less to work with. I mean, you're not that big guy. You imagine if Brandon Moreno had the power of Deontay Wilder?
Yeah.
That kid'd be nuts. But we are back on the 135. A fight I saw rumored on Twitter right before we went live, actually. I wrote it down. I was so excited about this fight. Peter Yan and Rob Font.
Yeah, I did see something.
We called it. We called that.
Did you?
That's a fun fight.
Dude, that's a fun fight.
Yeah, it is.
When is that? When are they talking?
I didn't read the whole thing because I was waiting. As I was reading it is when Chase's pop decided to whoop his ass. So I got off. I thought we were going to go live. But yeah, that is a actually super fun fight, and Peter Yan needs a W, and I don't think he gets a W.
Rob Font, I'd be rooting for Rob Font big time on that fight.
Yeah. Because we switched up on the last time Rob Font fought. I switched up. This time I will not do it.
But so with that being said, the next fight night, it's another crazy title picture for the heavyweight division.
Absolutely.
But before we move on, I just want to give the props. Edson Barbosa with the big time knee for one of the best knockouts, and
still Munoz
is still keeping himself relevant too with a big win over an upcoming contender, and Iwan Cutelaba just saved himself from getting cut with that win. He was on the verge of that. But this Saturday was April, would it be the 21st,
We also had a double retirement on the preliminary card.
Oh yeah, we did. What was it? Zach Cummings?
Zach Cummings and Ed Herman.
And then my man Clay Guida faked it.
He pissed Dana White off of that.
But Zach Cummings, actually, big round of applause to him because he went out with a knockout win in front of his home crowd. So to retire on that note, hats off to him for that. That's really nice. So Pavlovich Blades this Saturday, the 21st of April. That is a huge fight. So Pavlovich is 3, Blades is 4. And so it's rumored that Stipe and Jones is going to happen at Madison Square Garden in November. That's the new rumor. But honestly, until I see those guys in the octagon, I'm not going to believe it because I still don't think this fight's going to happen. And I've said that to you guys. I don't think it's going to happen. Pat made up a good point. You said it. You think Dana's trying to push Stipe out because we all know that Dana White does not like Stipe Miocic.
Nope.
There's got to be some sort of reasoning behind that, though, right?
Well, Pat, you talked about it with Fedor. I want you to share this because I thought it was a pretty interesting take.
What do you mean about Fedor? As in,
so
I have a lot of takes on Fedor. So,
well, hang on. It was back when Verdum beat Fedor, came to the UFC,
right?
And Fedor and Verdum was the champ, and you thought so. Stipe knocked out Verdum in the first round to win the belt, and that kind of foiled Dana's plan of wanting to keep Verdum the champion to pull Fedor into the UFC.
And it did. Go ahead. It did. It when you look at that fight, first off, I honestly believe Dana never wanted to give Stipe that shot anyways.
No.
The whole plan was to run Verdum Velasquez too. But Kane's body gave out, and God bless him, he never recovered. But Stipe was never supposed to win that fight. He was never supposed to beat Fabricio Verdum. No. Never. Especially the way he did. But the whole storyline behind that was, Fedor, during that time, I don't care what Dana says. Dana wanted Fedor back because Fedor brought in money. He had his own fan base. He had all of Russia. Fedor brought in money. So when Verdum lost to Stipe knocked him out. Fedor was like, whatever, I'll stay over here, do Sambo, make more money. And ever since then, Dana really he never really embraced what Stipe could have been for that company. And also, the other thing about Stipe is he's all in on fighting. There's no doubt about it. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. But also, Dana doesn't like his champions doing other things. And it's crazy because they could have marketed him being a fireman, an everyday man. Marketable. But the problem was, it was kind of like Shane Carwin. Shane Carwin was an engineer. Dana didn't like that. Dana does not. If you're doing something else outside of fighting that Dana White cannot control, Dana White does not like that. So,
and I think that's a fair point. Honestly, I think I agree with you on that.
You can't control it. You can't control what they do.
It makes it hard too when you have that second job or that second income. You can't just do commercials. You can't push Nike ads. You can't push Modelo because you're at work. Like, I'm sure I'm sure Stipe being the champ of the world, there's probably some leeway. Like, but he knows he's a down to earth blue collar guy. He knows I'm at the station tonight. I can't be making Budweiser ads or Modelo ads. I can't remember which. It's Modelo ads.
Yeah,
I can't be doing that. So it really does mess with the UFC's pocket a little bit. But you have other champs, more marketable champs. Like, you don't see Izzy getting treated like that. Like, Izzy was just
it also don't help that, like I said, we could have a whole separate podcast on the whole Stipe Miocic situation. But that is what that is. But going back to the
Pavlovich Blades.
Pavlovich Blades, man. I tell you what, Sergey Pavlovich, man. This dude, 4 years ago, I said Curtis Blades was going to be the heavyweight champ. I said because I thought Curtis Blades, his wrestling, naturally he isn't. My new Pavlovich is going to be champ one day. It's going to be soon. That dude, he's big. He hits hard. He walks people down. I think his wrestling's good. I think his wrestling's good enough to block the takedown. He's a problem, man. He is a problem.
Bishop, Sergey Pavlovich.
Does he have?
He got that Russian, crazy ass Russian cold blood in him.
Yeah, he just fucking runs through people, and it's insane to watch.
Bishop's catchphrase, that is going on our merch when we release that. Just a heads up.
Yeah.
That is going to be
everywhere.
That's our slogan. He's got that dog in him.
Yeah.
I mean, Pavlovich is just. I look at this fight, and don't get me wrong. Curtis Blades is a good fighter.
Mm-hmm.
He could win this fight. Yeah, does he have the potential to take him down? Yeah. I think Pavlovich runs through him. I think this dude, he's a problem for that weight class, and he's mean. That's a mean Russian dude, and he don't care who's in front of him.
Yeah. I used to agree with you on the whole Curtis Blades thing, but then it was like when I see him try to do that takedown on Derek Lewis, and he telegraphed it a mile away. I was like, come on.
Desperate. He's a desperate shooter. Shooter for a takedown.
Oh, 100%. But I think the thing that really did it for me was when he fought Rosenstrike. That's right, Rosenstrike. In Vegas. That was the most boring fight I ever watched because it looked like me and you both said it to each other, Chase. These are top 5 heavyweights at the time.
They were top 5 at the time.
they were top 5 heavyweights at the time, and I'm like, this is what the heavyweight division has to work with. And I used to agree with the whole Curtis Blades is going to be champ because he was a problem, but I don't know now. I mean, Pavlovich is definitely a problem. I mean, he fought Tuivasa recently and
starched him.
Yeah, starched him.
Who the hell starts high to Tuivasa?
Yeah, and that's the thing I didn't think I would ever see happen because he went in there against Greg Hardy and starched him, and then he's just been running through people coming out to the fancy songs and doing shoeies and shit.
Yeah,
I mean the guy's a riot to watch, but I just couldn't see anybody starching him like that. I mean that was crazy. Yeah. But he comes in, he rushes, he puts pressure on people, then he knocks them out.
And
this is what he does.
He stood toe to toe for a couple rounds with Cyril Gane.
Yeah,
and he did. He hurt Cyril Gane.
Yeah, that's a.
I was about to say for what it's worth. I mean, I know Tuivasa got finished, but he had gone seriously hurt in that fight.
Yeah,
yes, he did.
So it's not like. Go ahead.
Cause I agree with all you guys. And this morning we were talking about it a little bit. But since then I've sat down. We told each other when we left work, get our notes together. So I did rewatch some old fights. Curtis Blades is good.
Yes.
When it's his night. And I think Saturday night will be his night. I think because he made a comment about the John Jones fight. He wants the John Jones fight. I think that's going to bring some motivation. with him. I can't give a prediction on how he'll win, but I just feel like he's got this chip on his shoulder, this extra oomph about him. And
this is his final chance.
Yeah, I feel he's gonna go in there and he's probably gonna shoot for the like you guys said, desperate for a takedown. He's probably gonna get one, and he's probably not gonna let Pavlovich back up after that. So he's good. He's good when he's good. I mean, it's like any other fighter. You know, you're good when it's your night. But
when he has his confidence, he's really dangerous.
Yeah, and I think he'll have that because you don't talk about John Jones walked into your division after taking a year and a half off and took this guy, this thing.
3 years off.
3 years. But Cyril Gahn, if you guys remember the promotion, he was like the next best thing. Like
he was like a phenomenon or something in the heavyweight division.
Moves like a bantamweight, hits like a heavyweight, and John Jones said, "Okay."
Yeah.
So if you're Curtis Blades and you see that and you're like
his
right, like motherfucker, like I gotta get my shit back on because.
Well, that's
not to take away from your point, but John Jones has done that with every single fight in his career too, which it's like it's an amazing thing to me that he's just done that with every fight. I mean, he walks in on a guy who's like the top dude in the heavyweight division all of a sudden, and he's like, all right, whatever. I'm gonna show you what I can do. And he did.
Yeah, I think Pavlovich is gonna beat Blades because I don't think, and when I say this, it's not like disrespectfully. I don't think Blades is a dangerous heavyweight in the slightest. Like I don't think
not anymore.
I don't think he brings in like when you hear his name, it's like that's not a name that makes me like would make me afraid. You know what I mean? He doesn't have like a crazy knockout power. He wrestles you and he hugs you for 3 rounds or 5 rounds, whatever it is. He's not a very good striker. I mean, he has some TKO finishes, but it all starts on the ground with him. And with that being said, with John Jones liking like with his wrestling, I mean, him and Blades is an interesting matchup just because of the wrestling side of things. But I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to see that fight because I think Pavlovich is going to actually knock him out.
I think that still would be a one-sided fight in my opinion.
I think Jones. What's up? Go ahead.
I'm with you. I think Pavlovich knocks him out.
Yeah, and one name I don't want to get lost in this. I was talking to you guys this morning.
Oh,
Tom Aspinall.
Yeah.
Now, Tom Aspinall's number 5 right now. He tore his ACL like 15 seconds into the fight with Curtis Blades.
Big injury to come back from.
Huge.
Especially
being that big.
I think Tom Aspinall. You talk about movement with Cyril Gahn. Tom Aspinall is a damn good heavyweight. He moves really well. He's got great ground game and wrestling, jiu-jitsu. He's a better striker than Blades, in my opinion.
He's super limber.
I think Tom Aspinall, honestly, I think if that fight would have played out, I think he beats Blades. I think he has a better chance of beating Pavlovich than Blades does. I think he beats Cyril Gahn because he'll take Cyril Gahn right to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Aspinall, you said he was back to full sparring, correct? I forget who found that earlier.
Yeah, this morning I read that.
Okay, and that article was from January, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if he's full sparring as of January, my man could be making a comeback this summer, early fall, and you can run that fight with Blades back and say, honestly, you can give him the loser of Blades and Pavlovich if you wanted to.
Give him the winner.
Yeah.
Well,
you can give him the winner of that fight.
He lost the Blades, so it makes it tough to play.
Well, it wasn't a loss; it was a medical.
It technically goes down as a loss, but he didn't lose the Blades. He had a freak injury, so it's like
which really sucks because Tom Aspinall, he's got that dog in him.
I think he does, man.
He does. 100%. I've been watching him for a while, and he became one of my favorite fighters. I mean, the guy's
I'm big on him,
crazy.
Dude.
Yeah,
I think honest to God, I think that he honest to God might be like outside of Jones and Stipe, he might be the best heavyweight in the division right now. Outside of those two.
I'm gonna tell you what's sad right now. Man, is the heavyweight division bad?
Yeah.
You take away Jones, take away Stipe. Man, is the heavyweight division bad right now?
I mean, there's nothing
There's
really
really
there.
nobody up and coming.
I
There's no
mean,
big stars. Curtis Blades is old. I mean, you got Pavlovich, you got Tom Aspinall. Man, you take them guys away, and the heavyweight division's in bad shape.
Like Derek Lewis needs to just hang it up. Rosenstrike fell off
Rosenstrike
significantly.
fell off.
Yeah.
It's just sad because that mean sad.
I mean,
Rosenstrike could have been something special. I mean, I heard a lot about him years ago, and now it's just like,
yeah, it's just,
yeah.
I don't know. He fell off. I mean, he's fighting Jelton Almeida
Hey, your
May
dog, man.
May 13th.
Yeah, regular.
So Almeida is like number 12. Rosenstrike's 9. So that's an interesting fight. But the heavyweights, it is lackluster. And actually, because we touched on this last week when Rob asked that question about how heavyweights,
Yeah, let's get to that.
Yeah.
how heavyweights in like the OG UFC days would compare to now. And even as we say it's lackluster now, like the heavyweights especially, they're better fighters as a whole. Like heavyweights back in the day, they were just big dudes with very little technique at all.
Yeah, they would just hit hard.
So like they hit hard, and that was about it. And everybody, like half of them were on steroids because UFC wasn't testing at the time.
Yeah.
So like once USADA came in, that all changed. But now, what's up?
Or go ahead. I want to finish. And I want to have a take on that.
Okay.
I had to do some notes on this one.
So, but with that, I think it's just a general state of the divisions from then to now is that fighters are capable of more. They know more. They're able to perform better. They're more knowledgeable in wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, taekwondo, Muay Thai, like all forms of martial arts. They're just a more well-rounded fighter than it was 20 years ago. And that's not even to bash the heavyweights back then. It's just the sport was so new and it evolves over time. It's constantly getting better. Like even how we saw leg kicks start and that changed the whole game.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
different things like that. It's just fighters now have a better skill set in more areas of mixed martial arts than they did before. And that's just, just the evolution of how things have gone.
Yeah, I'm going to add some of this, and our friend Rob asked this question about from like the Dan Severn days and Hoist Gracie and, you're looking at Tank Abbott. Okay. Those guys compared to today, no, they wouldn't. Them guys, yeah, they might win a fight here and there. You put Tank Abbott in there or Dan Severn in there with a Stipe, that's a bad night for them guys. However, though, if you look at the heavyweight division, I'm gonna go from 2006 to between 2006 and 2008. Let's go 2008 to now. You look at the heavyweight division in all of MMA. Like you said, it's hard to compare guys like Fedor, Rodrigo Nogueira, Coleman. Mark Coleman, Hammer Coleman, Kevin Randleman, all them guys. And in the UFC, you have Frank Mir, Tim Sylvia, Andre Arlovsky. Them guys in Pride, were they on steroids? We don't know. Fedor, Nogueira, Mirko Cro Cop at his day, Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman. So for the sake of argument, let's say they weren't. Let's say, Fedor, Cro Cop, them guys weren't. Do I think Fedor in his prime and Cro Cop and Nogueira, I forgot about Randy Couture as well, Randy Couture in the UFC. Couture. Do I think those guys could compete in today's MMA heavyweight? Damn, yes, they could.
Oh,
the heavyweight division's so bad. I'm talking, but you're talking 13 to 15 years ago. I think those heavyweights could compete and compete very well in today's MMA.
Yeah, at least a good handful of them could.
A good handful of them, like I said, Randy Couture, Fedor, Mirko Cro Cop. Those guys.
I feel like Kevin Randleman would just run through people.
You also have to look at the fact that, like, back in the day when the UFC and MMA was just starting out, and we'll just say MMA, not the UFC.
Josh Barnett, I forgot about him too. Sorry about that.
A lot of those guys were just like bouncers that the UFC, like MMA organization saw a big fucking. If you look at today, how many NFL linebackers have went to the UFC? Matt Mitrione, Greg Hardy, Brock Lesnar, and not be linebackers, but just NFL people.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Bob Lashley, who's in the WWE, but he played football. Now he tried
Yeah.
MMA. But like back in the day, I own an MMA organization. Me and my buddy Chase, we own Knockout MMA, and we go to the bar and there's this big bouncer. Like, hey man, you gonna make $500 Saturday night? Here you go. You're not
the tough man competitions. Remember
it was
those?
It was like rough and rowdy. It was like rough and rowdy.
Because you're not an athlete. You're just a big dude. So like,
right.
Now you've got kids younger than us that are making 4th, 5th UFC appearance. It's like that's just the like Chase said, evolution of the sport. And it only helps that MMA has gotten so popular.
Right. Well, I want to add also to the real quick to the heavyweight divisions. I feel like the heavyweight division had like eras. As I remember, I remember, like I said, years ago, Rico Rodriguez, Pedro Hizzo, those guys, Randy Couture in UFC, Fedor, Mirko, and all them guys in Pride. And then I remember when Brock Lesnar jumped onto the scene, or Randy Couture came back, beats himself. But Brock Lesnar came on the scene, beat an old Randy Couture. And it was like the mass monsters came in. You got Brock Lesnar, you had Shane Carwin, who was just a monster of a man. Frank Mir gained weight.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Uberim come in.
And all of a sudden, Cain Velasquez showed up. And Junior Dos Santos, Fabricio Verdum, Stipe Miocic. If you look at the heavyweight division, in my opinion, the best fighters in that division of all time weighed anywhere from about 235 to 245. That it was like the perfect weight for a heavyweight. They were big and strong enough to knock you out with one shot, but they were also athletic. They were super athletic, like Stipe, Cain, Junior, Fabricio, Fedor, Mirko. Those guys were great athletes on top of being one strike power.
Right.
So it's just sad, in my opinion, today's heavyweight division outside of a couple small fighters is very bad. And I do think, like I said, from 2008 up, I think those heavyweights then could compete easily today. But going back, years ago, like Rob asked, like what years ago, them guys, they're not going to. It's like you said, the evolution of the sport, the evolution of the athlete period has completely changed.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this many times about like the way the UFC used to be and like the fighters they used to bring in. Like, I mean, I see it all the time on TikTok or just watching old clips. You'd have a good example. You had a guy who was like, I think 450 pounds fighting a dude that was like 250.
That was the Pride days, man.
Yeah.
That was like early UFC. This one was in the UFC. They did it in Pride too, but
yeah,
you had stuff like that going on. But then on the other hand, you had the guys who just did straight up jiu-jitsu. You had straight up wrestlers, and you had straight up boxers and brawlers.
You had specialists. That's like all that it was.
But now, if you look at it today, you still got your jiu-jitsu guys and your wrestlers, and I say this all the time, but all of these guys, like you look at Volkanovski, that guy can do everything. You take guys like that, and just the way the whole sport has just changed to like what it is today. Every single person that's on that roster, I'm not saying they can do everything, but they have a general idea of how to do everything. Yes, they're going to get better and all this yada yada yada, but you don't have guys that are just going to go in there that are straight up wrestlers, straight up jiu-jitsu artists, and straight up strikers. You do these guys, they have way more things in their playbook to use.
Tell that to Rosas.
That's actually
tell that to him.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Bishop. And we'll use Derek Lewis as an example. Can my man wrestle? Meh. Can he do jiu-jitsu? Meh. Can that man stand back up after you climb on him? Yeah.
Yeah, he can just stand
Lewis
up.
Can get off his back like that. But I bet you, and I would say this as like egotistical, I bet you my jiu-jitsu coach could probably choke out Derek Lewis. But that man, if you wrestle him, he's getting back up. Like, it's just crazy to me that happens.
Prime example of that. I'm going to give you two specialists. It's funny they fought each other. But if you look at them, and they had success. They had a lot of success. Even a couple years ago, it's Damian Maia. Name me 10 better jiu-jitsu guys in the world than Damian Maia.
Me.
He was a specialist.
Me.
He had terrible, had no stand-up game, no nothing. But he was a specialist. Another one, Ben Askren. Ben Askren he was a wrestling and grappler. Had zero striking. And a little success.
That spinning back fist was pretty nasty that he threw. I don't know.
Yeah, that was sweet. That was pretty dope.
Dude,
like Bishop did say. No, like Bishop said, you have to mix it up. It's MMA. It's 2023.
Yeah.
You have to have have a little bit of everything.
I just think the thing back then was it was like everyone's seen Ultimate Fighting Championship, so they were like, all right, I just got to go in there and fight. But then they started seeing more people that were doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling and this and that. So then people started incorporating that into their striking or whatever else they were doing.
Yeah, but that goes into the mixed part, the mixed martial arts. Because even Damian Maia, if we're talking mixed martial arts, I can't name you 10 better jiu-jitsu players. If we're talking jiu-jitsu, I can name you 30. Like, he's not the best jiu-jitsu player anymore, but he was probably the best MMA jiu-jitsu player. Because if you want to go GOAT list, and you guys don't watch jiu-jitsu like I follow jiu-jitsu, Gordon Ryan's the GOAT, but I think Gordon Ryan's probably get knocked out in MMA. But so it's the specialist part or not the specialist part, but like the mixed part that you really have to have.
Right.
And especially in today's MMA, you have to have it all. And
because you don't know what this other guy you're going up against has. You just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. You can watch all of his fights, but if I'm signing on to fight Bishop and for 6 months I do jiu-jitsu, he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
He watched all my other knockouts and he's like, oh, he's a boxer. Well, here I'm taking you down.
Next thing I know, I throw a jab and then a right hook and then I'm fucking twisted into a pretzel. I'm saying, what the fuck happened? This guy's supposed to be a striker. Why did he just wrap me up like this?
Yeah. So final remarks. If we're gonna go based on that, I don't think the legends of old could keep up with the legends in the making of today.
I agree.
Yeah, especially I said. Go ahead, Chase.
No, so go ahead and finish up because I want to move on to the next thing.
I was gonna say, especially in the heavyweight division, or especially I take that back. Probably, especially in the lighter divisions. The heavyweight division, maybe so more, but in the lighter divisions, especially now, some older guys in the lighter divisions compared to the guys today, no. The evolution is completely.
It's constantly evolving. There's new techniques done, and it's just there's always, like I said, the next thing's always happening, and it happens quick.
Yeah.
So now
for our buddy Rob.
Here we go, Rob. But we talked about Arnold Allen and Holloway. We got the flyweight title picture kind of lined up. Talking about the heavyweight division, and it's pretty much you got Pavlovich Blades, and actually real quick for that fight, official predictions. I'm rolling Pavlovich. I think Pavlovich knocks him out.
I'm with Chase. I think Pavlovich knocks him out.
I'm the same.
I'll be the odd one out. I'm gonna take Curtis Blades.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So now with that being said, we have the 130, so we talked about the 125ers possibly, if that division goes away, moving up to 135. But we have a big 135-pound fight. It was supposed to be this weekend, but it got moved to the main event for fight night of April 29th. And that is Yadong versus Ricky Simon. Yadong is 8, Simon's 10. Now, that fight, we have the bantamweight title going May 6th with Cejudo and Sterling. And now, this fight that's going to be next weekend, the 29th. Now, watching Sandhagen versus Yadong, dude, if it weren't for that doctor stoppage, Song was giving him all he could handle. That guy, he hits hard. He's got a good chin. He's got a good gas tank. He is a real threat in the 135-pound division. I think he could make a lot happen there. But I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that, on this upcoming fight?
I like Song Yadong. I like Song Yadong. I agree with you.
So do I.
He was giving Sandhagen a lot of problems. He's a tough dude.
Actually, I think I had it 2-2 going into the fifth round.
Well, we were talking about earlier. That whole division, dude. That division, there's some straight killers in that division. But Rick's. I mean, you got Story versus. I mean, I like Song Yadong in this fight. That's where I'm going to go with that. You know,
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, Rick's Story, I wouldn't be shocked if he pulled one off. I mean, I like Rick's Story, but I'm leaning towards Song Yadong.
Ricky Simon.
Ricky Simon. I said Ricky Story.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Ricky Simon.
Rick Story's a welterweight.
Totally off subject. Totally off subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ricky Simon.
I like Song Yadong. Tough kid. I think I would agree with you guys. He gave Corey Sandhagen a lot of problems. Well, not a lot of problems, but problems that Sandhagen took time to figure out.
Yeah.
With that, Ricky Simon's 30, and he's 20-3. It's a lot of experience. That's a lot of fights.
Yeah.
And I think one of his
Song's only 25.
He's 18-7. He has more fights, like 2 more fights. But
yeah. So I'm gonna rock with Ricky Simon.
Okay.
But I'm only gonna rock with him because of the record. 20-3 is a pretty big deal, and the age. I want if Song wins or Song Yadong wins, I wouldn't be mad because that division needs a fresh face.
Yeah, because it really the way he performed against Sandhagen impressed me a lot. So it was just it showed me a lot because I mean he ate some shots, still kept through, gave like I said, I thought I had it 2-2 going into that 5th round. It was like it was razor thin margin. So
I do like Ricky Simon's haircut though.
Yeah.
I like that little mullet look. That's pretty sweet.
I wait for Bish to get his haircut looking like Hardy over there. That's what I want. But what do you think? What are you thinking, Bish? Who are you taking?
I'm gonna take Song Yadong.
No. So, I mean, that's pretty much. I mean, that's all like the upcoming fights, the title pictures going on. But there were a few like announcements and changes, big things that are happening right now. That spend a couple minutes on before we hop off. So the big one, Dariush versus Oliveira it got moved to UFC 289 to co-main. Now you guys were saying that Dustin Poirier was in the mix. So what's the deal with this?
The article I read was from MMA Fighting, and they were asking the question: should they scrap Charles Oliveira if he will even be ready for 89 and insert Dustin Poirier against Dariush? Now, I read the article and this and that. There's been a lot of talk about Dustin Poirier at 155, and also we'll talk about it a little bit later at 170. So I don't know. I mean, could you, if Oliveira is not ready, because I guess he wasn't training that much. I don't know what exactly he hurt. What did he hurt?
Bishop.
What did Oliveira get hurt? Morning. Bishop. What did Oliveira hurt?
I believe it was his knee.
So let's say it's his knee. Let's say it's not 100%. He can't go. Does the UFC wait around for Charles Oliveira, or they say, "Hey, Dustin, you beat him. You beat Dariush. Title shot."
Well, not even for Dustin, for Dariush, man, he deserves it. My man, he deserves a chance at that title. So give him this fight, whether it's Poirier or Oliveira.
I agree.
I feel like they should just scrap the fight, and Dariush deserves the title shot. I mean, he's just been. It's like he's Kevin McAllister. He just keeps getting forgotten about, left home alone. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean the dude. He's proven time after time that he deserves a shot. I mean, he's fucking just put on hell of a fucking performances, night after night, and I mean, for this kind of thing to happen, because Charles Oliveira, he didn't just get hurt. He got hurt at the beginning, and he was coming into training off an injury, and he wasn't training as much. So he pulled out because he's like, look, I barely trained, so I'm not ready for this fight. Which I understand that. I'm nothing against him. But I just think they need to scrap the fight, and they need to stop fucking around with Dariush and give him the shot. Because, I mean, at this point in time, I'm sure Dariush could have went to Bellator. He could have went to one championship and fought for a title there or something. He could have went anywhere else, but he has stayed true to his loyalties with the UFC, and they're not really being loyal to him, and that's a damn shame to waste this guy's time. I mean how old is Dariush? He's got to be like 35.
Yeah, he's
somewhere in there.
He's 33. He's
Yeah.
33.
He's 33. So he's just wasting his time that he has like in his prime to wait around, and all these other guys that just walk in the division like, oh, give me my title shot. I'm a big name. Like, yeah, Michael Chandler, he was a big name. Did he really deserve to have a title shot? I mean, he fought what used to be Dan Hooker at the time.
That's a good point. He did fight what used to be Dan Hooker.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's a really good fucking fighter. He's just not on his game right now. He's
lost a step after the Poirier fight.
Yeah, he's got to remember who the fuck he is, which I hope he does because I love Dan Hooker. But Neil Dariush, they just need to stop fucking around with him, give him his title shot, and be done with it. I mean, if he becomes champion, I would love it so much because it's gonna piss so many people off.
Yeah,
Matt, what do you got?
I'm with you guys. I feel Dariush deserves it. It's not his fault. Oliveira got hurt. My man showed up. He was healthy. If they decide to offer the Dustin fight as Dariush's camp, I might decline anyways. Why am I going to risk it? Why am I going to risk my shot? Because we've talked.
Because they're going to leapfrog him.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, I just found this was an article. These are quotes from Dariush that I pulled up here. So he said he went in. This is when they told him that the fight was getting scrapped or was getting moved. So he said it took a minute and kind of calmed down. So I go in and I basically say to them, hey, if that's the case, if he's not available, let me fight Makhachev in, let's say, July or August. UFC said, no, we're saving him for October in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I told you that the other day.
Yeah. Dariush said, I don't want to wait to fight until October, but I still want to fight for the belt. So I say, okay, why don't I get him in October then? So they said, basically, the way they put it, for Dariush, he said, I'm not the number one contender is the way they put it. They said there's people ahead of me. And they specifically pointed out Dustin Poirier. At that point, I was about to flip a table. I was about to take Justin Gaethje's advice. He said, if Dariush doesn't get the title shot, we riot. And I was very close to that. That's what Dariush said.
We should.
So that answers your question, Matt.
With Poirier. But here's the deal. So if Oliveira's hurt, run Dariush Poirier. Your problem solved. Just run it.
The problem the UFC's having if they run Dariush Poirier, and what if neither of those guys are ready by October?
What if Poirier don't want the fight because he's being told, hey, October, you're getting a shot. So if you're Dustin Poirier, you're going, nah, I'm forget Dariush. I'm fighting for the belt in October.
And with Oliveira, once he got hurt, he should have done this months ago when he first got hurt. Oliveira screwed Dariush in this. Honestly, like I kind of lost some respect for Oliveira on this situation because
I'm gonna disagree with you.
He screwed him. He 100%. If you were hurt and you knew you couldn't train right for at least a couple weeks, why take that chance on missing that fight and you completely pull out of it 4 weeks before it's supposed to happen? If he would have done this in the beginning of a training camp, UFC would have had time to make a matchup. I'm not saying Dariush still wouldn't have gotten screwed because UFC has been stringing him along. But they could have figured another opponent for him.
It was an undisclosed injury, by the way.
Dariush is potentially 2 fights away from a title shot. And that's just my opinion. I don't think it's right. I think he deserves a title shot. But I think Dariush is minimal 1 fight potentially. 2 fights away.
I definitely
that's sad. It's sad because I think the man deserves it.
I say he deserves it now, but I think he's at least 1 fight away if he has to do more.
He's turning into that division's Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
Where what I'm afraid what's going to happen to Dariush is he's going to run into somebody and he's going to get banged up bad. And he'll never get a shot.
Bishop, what were you saying with the injury?
It was an undisclosed injury.
So he never said what it was.
I thought I read somewhere that it was a knee injury. But I just
maybe he's getting his hair dyed.
Yeah, he's probably getting it for the whole team too.
I thought.
But I do love the Bronx.
So what's up, Matt?
Dariush, I agree with Pat. He was 1, maybe 2 fights away. I'm gonna say 1. I thought he needed the Oliveira fight, and for it to fall through, my heart crushes for him. But for the UFC to say, hey, you've been active. Sorry, can't do nothing for you. Poirier gets it. Just as it happened almost immediately after Justin Gaethje announced he wants a title run and he wants Poirier. So what
You're
the
right.
fight to make would be Dariush Poirier, and then Dariush Gaethje, and then Poirier versus Islam October. Winner of Dariush Gaethje, you guys are getting the shot.
I mean,
yeah, but
it's not a bad plan.
Why is everyone calling Dustin Poirier out? Because I mean, we got to talk about a little something a little bit later. But I'm reading articles about Dustin Poirier.
170.
Yeah, 170.
Because
Gilbert Burns.
Because all four of us will buy the pay-per-view if Dustin Poirier's on it.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
that's why.
I'll buy it.
So that's the whole kind of like messed up situation with Dariush. I feel for the guy big time. But
Absolutely.
Speaking of moving up, Alex Pereira is going up to 205. So that's happening. It looks like he's going to fight Jamal Hill. Prochazka will get the winner of the Hill and Pereira fight. That's fun. Bro, that's a lot of fun. Like, I'm just sitting there thinking, imagine Pereira versus Prochazka. That has the potential to be one of the greatest
of the century.
Dude. So, but the only thing, and we saw it against Reyes, even though Prochazka won that fight in spectacular fashion, Prochazka eats bombs. He eats a lot of shots. And Pereira is a great striker.
And them shots from him.
I'm gonna say right now, he moves to 205. Pereira is the champ, and he stays a champ for a little while because there's really no. I mean, 205 is kind of lackluster too. There's not a lot of threats to Pereira in that division, in my opinion.
Pereira, I have, and this is just a personal opinion again, I don't think Pereira can beat Jamal Hill.
Wow, big take.
Yeah, I don't think so. Jamal Hill hits hard. Watch the Glover fight. His boxing is crisp. It's crisp. Yeah. And Jamal, I told Chase this the other day.
He could wrestle better.
And he can wrestle better. He hits harder than Izzy.
And Izzy just knocked out Pereira. So that's
what were we talking about with weight cutting and fluid in the brain?
Right.
Pereira's not going to have to cut that much more weight.
Yeah. So
you have to show up.
It's a fun. There's a lot of fun.
Honestly, I just want to see Prochazka and Pereira so much.
I want to see that fight. I just feel like I'm more excited for the Pereira Hill.
Yeah,
because it's two guys.
I mean, they're both fun fights.
So I hope that gets announced soon. Dana White said he's not getting an immediate title shot. He has to fight somebody worth it. So I'm trying to think of guys. Who's Pereira going to fight to prove he's 205 ready?
Jan
Blachowicz.
Yeah, because I don't know when Prochazka is going to be. I don't know when Prochazka is going to be back.
Polish power.
But
I think he's back to training. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know when he's going to be able to clear the fight again. But you got Anna Kalaev, Blachowicz, Alexander Rakic, which I think he was coming off an injury. Anthony Smith is fighting Johnny Walker as the co-main May 13th. That's the co-main.
It's a good fight. Two guys that really need
to
prove something.
So, I mean, 205 has a little bit of excitement going on right now. And as far as that, I think, there was one more thing that I had written down.
There's one more that Pat's been itching to talk about. And I have it in my notes.
Pat, do you want to go now, or do you want to close it?
Yeah, Pat. We keep talking about Dustin Poirier, but one thing we see in the last couple days, I talked to you guys, at 170 pounds, Gilbert Burns asked for a fight on short notice. He wants it. Was it at 288 or 289?
288.
And the rumor is Burns versus Bilal Muhammad.
That's where I was going.
Yeah,
so
that's the fight.
Yeah.
I tell you what. And I told you guys this earlier. I think it's a bad turnaround for Gilbert Burns. As much as I love Masvidal, he's nowhere near the fighter that Bilal Muhammad is right now. Muhammad's hungry. That's a hell of a turnaround for Gilbert Burns. I think he should maybe rethink this. But what it does is it creates a clear number one contender in that division.
Without a doubt.
That fight is announced on short notice, it's a very, very uphill climb for Gilbert Burns because Bilal's hungry and he's improving every fight. Yeah. But it's an exciting fight, and I hope it happens. I hope it happens.
So do I.
I hope it happens. I don't like Gobert's quick turnaround because Bilal's the real deal.
Yeah.
Bilal's he's good
Remember
everywhere.
the name.
Yeah, he's good everywhere. I think it's a bad turnaround. But Bilal, just like Dariush, give my man a shot. Like,
yeah, it's the same concept. Like they're both going through the same thing right now.
It's almost the same thing, except Bilal's been in there with the champ. Eye pokes took him out.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's a tough one.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Bish?
I mean, I like the fight. I like the fight a lot. I'd like it even more if Gilbert Burns took more time. Because like that said, Bilal Muhammad.
Dude, you gotta prepare for Muhammad.
You better pack a lunchbox.
Bilal Muhammad is no joke. And I know there's some people who are saying Bilal Muhammad who, because I think they just stopped listening to the guy for the whole eye poke thing. But Bilal Muhammad's the real deal. I mean, the guy's super hungry. He comes in there and he just brawls with you. He's a scary dude.
His wrestling's good. His grappling's good.
He's a very scary dude to fight. And Gilbert Burns, he ain't no joke. Gilbert Burns is no joke.
That's a great matchup, man.
But a month. I mean, he's still fresh after the Masvidal fight.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really quick turnaround. Now, I will say this. If this fight does get announced with that quick of a turnaround and Gilbert Burns goes in there and fucking starts with Bilal Muhammad, I'd have to say Gilbert Burns is one of the best in that division. I mean, not that I don't say he is now, but like if he goes in there after a month, if he goes in there after a month and takes out a guy who's been working his way up and getting better and better and is that hungry for a title shot, that just shows you how good Gilbert Burns is to go in after a month.
And I don't think there's any question of how good Burns is because say he wins, dude, he could beat Leon and he can beat Colby.
Yeah, that would just silence all the doubters of him though. If he does that,
it's a big time.
I think
fight
Bilal can too. Mm-hmm. I think Bilal can beat both of them too.
Yeah, I mean that all between those four guys, any scenario with how you stack up those fights, are good fights. They are very good fights.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially. I mean, that'll be the storyline surrounding it, the big turnaround against the up and coming guy.
Also, one thing I did see, I'll let Matt finish. I'm sorry, Matt.
Oh, that was just straight to the point. Actually, I was already done. It's just it's a storyline, man. It's the guy that
it is.
CLC deserves it, but versus
Leon Edwards. I read an article today that he doesn't want to fight in Britain. He doesn't want to fight in England. So I don't think Leon Edwards wants to fight Cole. He does not want the Covington fight. He
said it. He's very outspoken about it. He doesn't want to fight him.
He doesn't want to fight Colby. So could this be the fight? Could this be Dana White in the works in the background going, hey, Burns, Muhammad, you guys fight this out. The winner of this fight does get Leon Edwards.
Well, I'd like to see if they're fighting in London, Tom Aspinall's comeback fight. If he's ready, that'd be sweet.
Well, no, yeah. So Edwards is saying he ain't fighting in London. He wants a little bit of time off. I honestly don't think. I don't think he wants to fight Colby.
He doesn't. He doesn't want any part of that. What he said about Colby Covington. He said there's no fight offer, even though Covington was saying the fight's there or whatever.
Well, Dana White was saying it too.
Yeah, but he said there's been no offer. The UFC hasn't spoken to them. There's no talks of the fight happening. Colby Covington is talking just to talk. And then Colby Covington's also been saying that Leon Edwards is going to get stripped soon. But it's only been a month at the time. Yeah, it's only been a month since he fought Usman. And he fought him back-to-back. So, yeah, I can understand why the guy would like a little bit of time to relax because he just went back-to-back with a really good fucking champion.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with that, I just feel like it's just a bunch of hype leading nowhere because, like you said, there could be something going on in the background with Burns and Muhammad saying you guys get the belt, the title shot.
I want to touch on that too.
I feel like something will be announced Saturday night.
Something's going to be announced,
especially for the heavyweight main event. They're going to have to announce something because the three of you plus me, fight fans are getting weary. We're getting a little fucking. You know,
I mean, you guys already know. I've said it. I don't think we're going to see Stipe Jones.
One thing I want to touch on real quick and on Colby Covington. And I heard this, and I get my credit, my source. I'm a big Josh Thompson, big John McCarthy fan. They were talking something about Colby Covington. This is before the George Masvidal-Gilbert Burns fight. Now, you guys remember Masvidal and Covington. Masvidal punched Covington somewhere, and Covington had a lawsuit on him.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
This is something that both them guys, McCarthy and Thompson, brought up. Is that they heard through the grapevine, in the underground, that Dana approached Colby Covington and said, listen, you dropped the lawsuit on George Masvidal. Masvidal can fight. We'll give you a title shot. That's what that's what they're saying. They heard that. Those are two very credible sources.
Yeah, Big John McCarthy, man.
I could honestly see that. I could see that UFC Uncle Dana telling Colby, hey, listen, you drop these charges on George Masvidal. You allow him to fight in Miami. We need the money, the Miami card. You drop them charges. I'll promise you a title shot.
Dude, that's actually really, really interesting.
And Leon Edwards is going, I don't care who you are. Maybe Leon knows about this. Maybe his camp found out. Maybe he listened to that podcast. It's something to really think about. I mean, could that have been part of the problem? Because let's be honest. I mean, as much as I think, and I think Colby beats him, does Colby Covington deserve a title shot over Bilal Muhammad or Gilbert Burns at this point?
I don't think he does. And I think we've all agreed on that.
But I think he's the better fighter, but I'm not.
I mean, you got two guys who've been active, and this guy's been.
It's been in my head. That scenario has been in my head.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that. That's actually a crazy point. I mean,
yes,
that's a lot to think about.
Yeah, because Jorge Masvidal couldn't fight as long as that lawsuit was going. Masvidal couldn't fight, and all of a sudden it was dropped. Masvidal gets announced. Colby's promised.
Something to think about. Something to.
Yeah.
It's in the back of my head all day now. Like I want to be on these backyard deals.
There's so much shit. Kind of like the Pride days. Yeah. Steroids, cocaine, Yakuza.
Yeah. With that being said, I think we've covered all of our points. Unless you guys have any more to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. I mean, we covered a lot and we stayed on track.
We stayed. Yeah, we stayed to an hour. We did good.
So good. Hour 15. Good podcast, boys.
Chase, out, as always.
I do have a couple honorable mentions for this Saturday.
Honorable mentions.
We have Bobby Knuckles fighting on Saturday.
OG Bobby Green.
Well, Bobby Knuckles. That's Robert Whitaker. That's Robert Whitaker.
Bobby Green, baby. OG Bobby Green.
So we'll do this.
I seen it and I got excited. I just said Bobby Knuckles in my head. Bobby Green.
This segment we're all excited for. Bishop, go through the main fight card and tell us who's got that dog in him.
Who's got that dog in him?
All right, so Sergey Pavlovich, he's got the dog in him.
Oh, shit.
Brad Tavares and Bruno Silva, I'm not too sure about that one.
I like Tavares.
I think Tavares has more of a dog.
Yeah, I would say he does too. Bobby Green, fucking dog. 100% he's a fucking dog. I don't know the two ladies fighting. I do apologize. Yasmin Lucindo and Brogan Walker. I don't know. I'm very sorry for that.
Either one.
You sexist piece of garbage.
I am. And then we have Jeremiah Wells versus Matthew Semi the Jedi Semmelsberger.
Semi the Jedi.
Semmelsberger fucking dog. 100%.
Because of the Jedi.
Rosenbacher.
Yes. I don't care if that guy's on a 10-fight losing streak ever in his career. He's always going to have that dog in him because of his nickname. And he's a good fighter.
I like it. So,
but that is the main card for UFC Fight Night.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to the Casual Couch MMA podcast. So we thank you every Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going live. If you can't make it live, don't worry. It's going to be